Welcome back to a new episode of Business Beyond the Game. I'm Eric Jackson, and today we have a familiar face joining the program. Three-time Pro Bowler, author, entrepreneur, and CEO of Malcolm Jenkins, ladies and gentlemen. How are you, sir?
Eric, I'm doing great, brother. How are you?
I'm great, man. I'm great. I purposely added author to your intro because indeed you are. You just
I
dropped your
appreciate
first
that.
book, What Winners Won't Tell, Lessons from a Legendary Defender, which I love because it touches on not just the wins, but also the losses too. What made you just want to put pen to paper and share your story, Malcolm?
Yeah, I mean, as an athlete, a lot of your life is documented, right? A lot of people tell your story, whether it's the sports journalist or whatever, and oftentimes we don't get to tell our own stories. And as I kind of got to the end of my career, having been in the limelight, been in, you know, in the in these situations where everybody's seen what you've done, but really no one understanding what goes into every decision, and I wanted to contextualize my 13-year career, really my life, in what people saw. So it was very therapeutic for me. I had to go back through some of the times that really influenced me, but also some of those tougher times that were uncomfortable to unpack. But we put it all in there, and I understand my life. I want to be a bridge builder, and I've experienced so many things, whether it be through sports, business, life, family, that others can benefit from. So I wanted to make sure that I put that story out there so people could see now, the entire picture of what it was I was doing.
Yeah, no, absolutely, for sure. What part would you say was one of the toughest parts to reveal? Maybe something you
Yeah,
wanted to leave out and you kind of put in, or what
yeah.
would you say?
I think chapter 11 for me was the hardest. It's entitled 111, and it's essentially about, like, there are 11 guys on the field, and everybody has a job. You have to do your 111. And a lot of the times we want things to be equal, but realistically, we know that certain positions have more responsibility, they have more visibility, but every single role is important. The quarterback, can't throw the ball if the offensive line doesn't block, and if somebody doesn't catch the ball. Yet the quarterback holds so much responsibility. And I found myself in that space, whether it be on the team, whether it be the social justice movement, it be in business. And that is a tough spot to be in. I talk about divorce and what it felt like to now try to move into being a single father.
Wow.
All of those things. That chapter is the shortest chapter because it was the hardest to write. So I hope people, appreciate the vulnerability. It's definitely some things I opened up, that in those biggest moments that people have seen me and known me for, those were some of the most trying times, behind closed doors. And I kind of unveil a lot of that in this book.
Yeah, no, definitely the vulnerability. That's for sure. Malcolm, you've invested in whiskey distillery and you have your own foundation. What's the next side mission for you? And I ask because the theme always seems to be addressing inequities in, a certain space or industry or, helping others overall.
Yeah, my whole thing is impact. And I want to have impact in as many different ways as possible. Right now, I think my personal kind of mission is in storytelling. This isn't just like I wrote my book and now I'm done. I want to get into that space. I started my production company, Listen Up Media, a few years ago, and we've been working through content. So this is kind of in line with that. But all of the businesses that we're doing, it's about teaching athletes. Like, athletes are making so much money now with NIL and all of these things, and I'm learning about investment. So we want to teach, people how to, invest their money the right way, how to set themselves up for financial freedom. And that's not just athletes, but we're doing that in schools. My foundation is launching, or not launching, has launched a financial literacy program in
Um,
schools in Philadelphia, in northern New Jersey, and like the Newark area, where we're teaching kids how to change their mindsets from being spenders and consumers to savers and investors, knowing that self-determination and being able to empower your own communities, your own families are essential to, like, the whole plan. We can't just have people relying on the government or wait for things to change. You got to be able to empower yourself with some tools. And as I learn those tools, my biggest thing is passing that knowledge to, those who look like me and who need it most.
No, I love that for sure. When did you get that passion for helping others with financial literacy? Like, was that something you experienced just in the league and just seeing your, others, or did that start way before you got to?
Yeah, I'm a solutions based, person. So when I see problems, like, I remember being terrified watching that 30 for 30 broke, right?
Right,
You
right.
just see everybody talk about the thousands of ways to lose your money. and I realized I was sitting in the middle of that like pot per se, like we're all frogs just slowly boiling, and you realize that you need to understand it. And there was a moment in my career where I had to ask myself, if it ended now, would I be good? And the reality was no. And I think it's because we come in thinking that playing sports and making all of this money is going to forever change your life. You won't have to work again. It'll change the trajectory of your family. And that is actually just not the case. So then there's a lot that you have to learn about who's making money off of you. How do you make your money work for you? And I outlined kind of my journey through all of that knowledge in this book, but also in real life, my solutions are to create funds where we can educate players on, how to invest their money, but also put it to work. The financial literacy program, all of those things come from experiences that I had to navigate myself. And I know that if I'm going through it, then there's other people, not only athletes, but just people in my communities and the world that need these lessons as well.
No, I love that for sure. And you had a long career, let alone someone who's maybe a few years in the league, right? So
Yeah, I've been blessed. Yeah, I was blessed to have 13 years to make up for a lot of the mistakes in the early part, where the average NFL career is less than 3 years.
right.
So it's like, if you're an athlete, you should be coming into the league with the mentality that you're getting ready to retire in 2 to 3 years. And if you start looking at how people set themselves up for retirement, it's way different than the lifestyle of athletes. So it is definitely some mental gymnastics that need to happen. But hopefully the things I'm doing set a good example.
Yeah, no, definitely. And speaking of investments, you also invested in an English Premier League club, Burnley F.C. A couple of years ago. Former NFL star J.J. Watt and his wife have also invested in the club earlier this year. Who's next now? You guys are building one of the most talented ownership groups in the EPL.
Yeah, I mean, it was rough there for a second. We invested, it was like great, and then they got relegated. And they won the Champions League, and now are back in the EPL, in a Premier League. So, it's exciting. JJ Watt come on. It's a lot of things happening with Burnley. I'm excited to be a part of it. I hope we continue to kind of bring more of those kind of sports icons from over here in America over there. There's definitely some kind of crossbreeding that's happening with the NFL going to Europe and vice versa. We're happy to be a part of it. Burnley, it's exciting. They got a new coach. They've been turning some things around, new players. It's an exciting time.
Yeah, no, definitely. Russell Westbrook also recently invested in Leeds. Along with several other sports stars. Tom Brady, your friend, just got into Birmingham City. Why are we seeing this explosion, Malcolm, in investment in British football? From celebrities, athlete investors. Is it an easier entry compared to other sports? Like, why is it, British football that's exploding?
Well, I think when you look at we look at soccer in general, football, that is the biggest league, right? So that's like the equivalent of getting an NBA team or an NFL team. And I think athletes are starting to more than ever change their mindsets from endorsements and, money like that to ownership. We want equity. And who better to talk, to be the strategic advisor than athletes, especially ones who've done it at the highest level. And so I do think it is a bit of an easier kind of entry point because of who we are, because of what we represent and what we've been through. But also, obviously, you need the capital to be able to get in those deals as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's great. And, we saw what happened with Wrexham and the FX show, right, Malcolm? Like, how pivotal is it to use unique storytelling to, hopefully, like in Burnley's case, right, push that audience, not just in the UK, but globally, including here in the US?
Yeah, I think storytelling is amazing. I mean, it's how we digest information. It's how history gets passed on. It's like you look at Ted Lasso and what that, just a
Right.
fictional story, right, and what that did to our attention over here. We started looking at the EPL more. We started learning about the things. So I think storytelling is how you kind of break those barriers, whether it's, international, whether it's race, anything. You start to break down barriers when you storytell and you don't just throw stats and, very quantitative information at people.
Yeah, no, I think Ted Lasso is a great example, right? I know so many people who could care less about sports, but they're huge Ted Lasso's fan, right? Like, I
Exactly.
don't get it, right? But maybe that's the crossover of entertainment, right? Like,
It is, for sure.
yeah, no, definitely. And, for you, Malcolm, you've had so many different experiences from business to sports, investments. Like, What would you say is the best business lesson you've learned just during your career?
The best business lesson I've learned personally is really about if you focus on impact, like the rest will take care of itself. I've never been one to be motivated by strictly money. Like money is a tool and money is needed to accomplish certain dreams, but you've got to focus on the dream. And for me, the way I've built my business is what I'm most proud of. I looked around at the talent around me, my friends, my family, who has some expertise that I don't, that's qualified to do this job, and let me pull them out of corporate and let's do this together. Right? This idea of collective and group economics is
Right.
all that I'm about, and I think that to me is the key for people who come from backgrounds like me who may not have a ton of access to capital or only one person in your family does. It was like, well, how do we surround that and maximize, that opportunity? And that's really been my blueprint is empowering people around me to excel so that, I'm really not in charge of the majority of business that we do, right? I'm in charge of the
You built the
people
right
that are in
team,
charge.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. One of the books I love to read is called Leaders Eat Last. And it talks about leaders are not responsible for the results. They're responsible for the people responsible for the results. And that's really how I've built my business.
No, I love that for sure. Leading with impact and letting everything take care of itself right after
Mm-hmm.
that. Yeah, I love that. There you have it, folks. Appreciate you all for tuning in to Business Beyond the Game. For my guest, two-time Super Bowl winner, turned businessman, and father of two, Malcolm Jenkins, thank you for joining the show, man.
I appreciate you having me, brother.
Always a pleasure.